Welcome to my allotment. It's the beginning of December and I'm going to give you a tour of what I'm doing on my allotment this week. So one of the things I will be doing is I'm going to try and overwinter my Cape gooseberries, and I'm going to show you how I'm going to do that. I'm also going to be digging up my dahlias this week. I've marked up with a little bit of string. I had some different types of dahlias here. Some of them were perfect for cut flowers, which I will dig out and store and then I'll replant. But some of them weren't quite so good for cut flowers, but they were really lovely. So I was just going to put them in my flower garden at home. So I'm going to try and keep those separate. And then we tied a little bit of string around the bottoms of them, because once they start to die off like they do now, you can't tell which is which. So just by tying a little bit of string around the bottom, we know which ones we want to keep separate from the others. So that's a top tip if you need to do that. As we come on, I've got some turnips that are maturing beautifully here, which I'm digging currently, and I'm eating them as I need them. I've also got some more spinach and also some overwintering spring onions, which are being a little bit overshadowed by the turnips, but they are all still there. I might pull the leaves if that's something to look out for. If you see something is going over it, then obviously just pull the leaves away so they don't get engulfed by other plants. We've also got a few beetroot up here as well, which again are a little bit overshadowed, but they're still coming along nicely. I'm overwintering some Savoy cabbage. I'm keeping it covered just to stop the birds from attacking it. I mean, they probably wouldn't, but I've got plenty of cover, so personally I'm just keeping mine covered because I know the birds, if they get a chance, will just attack it. So I'll cover that back up. As we move over, I've dug the last of my carrots because they're all well and truly finished, but I have still got some beetroots in here which I'm digging just as I need them, and the same with the parsnips. I'm just digging them as and when I need them. The fennel never really amounted to much, but like I said before, you can still cut them small and put them in risottos and salads, so they're still perfectly good. They're just not as big as what you're used to. So my beans are all starting to dry off naturally, so I will take those off quite soon actually, because these will be what I will plant next year. I've not got the best collection of beans that I'm going to dry, but I've got a few on there and I'll save them. As we move up, there is an area here which I do need to dig, and I think it's worth mentioning that at this time of year you have to choose your days up here and just do a little job each week. It's not so fun during the winter because it's really cold and really wet, and it's not quite as fun in the summer, so you don't have to be up here hours and hours. I've never been up on my allotment hours and hours during the winter, or even in the summer for that matter. It's all about little and often, and provided you come up here once a week in the winter and you do a few little jobs just to start to tidy everything ready for the spring, that's enough. Unless of course you want to be up here in the wind and the rain and the wet, and I personally don't want to. So as you can see, obviously all my squashes and courgettes are finished, you know, so no weeds are growing there because obviously I've got that covered. My black currants are starting to bud, which looks quite lovely, and as you can see, if you look over into the fruit cage, I do need to give that a little bit of a tidy. But again, this time of year things don't grow so badly, and that does include the weeds, so the time is on your side to get these jobs done. So as we move over, my garlics are looking really lovely. I'm really pleased with those. So they're looking really nice. One job I am going to be doing over the next few weeks, and I probably said that in the last video, so I'm going to be putting a little bit of cardboard down along this bit. It's a little bit like the no dig thing. What I find is my fruit cage area, often the grass often starts to grow over into my main part of my allotment, and I'm going to try and put in a bit of cardboard down to try and stop that from happening this year, because it's virtually impossible to stop that happening. It's just a natural progression. My kale are still quite lovely underneath there, so I'm still picking kale off as and when I need it, as are my spinach. So your spinach and your kale are kind of like the things that feed you during what we call the hunger gap. You know, they pretty much are always here all throughout the winter, so you kind of have to like them really, but they are quite versatile, the different things you can do with them. You can cut them up quite small and put them in salads, you can put them in stir fries. Crispy kale is one of my favourite things that I do during the winter. You can add them to curries and risottos and all sorts of things, and of course with the bright lights chard, it also adds a lovely flash of colour to any of your meals. So my overwintering onions are looking really good. So with obviously like the garlic and the onions, do keep an eye that the weeds don't grow too much. They generally don't this time of year, and it'll be worse once the spring starts to hit. But do just keep an eye that there's not too many weeds growing. I've got more beetroot here that I can pull as and when I need it. And And the same with my leeks. I've got a lovely selection of leeks, which each week I dig a few leeks. I always dig the biggest ones to let the smaller ones swell out, and hopefully that will at least take me up till Christmas, if not into the new year. And I've got a small section here which I've already covered so that the weeds don't grow. And then we come down to the Cape gooseberries. Now the Cape gooseberries are something that I've never grown before, and I was fortunate enough to be given some plants, but unfortunately either I didn't feed them enough or they were just given to me a little bit too late, because they never really came to much. I've got a few fruits off of it, but not that many. As you can see, there's loads of the little buds on here, but as we open them up they've not ripened because they didn't come on soon enough. Like I said, I did have a few, and the ones that I did have were really lovely, but an awful lot of them didn't ripen up. Now someone has suggested that you can overwinter them, so I'm going to give it a go. So what I've started to do, I'm just cutting them back, and as you can see there are actually some shoots on there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut them all back using some secateurs, and then I'm going to pull my cover and I'm going to cover them to try and keep them warm. I'm probably going to put a little bit of my well rotted compost over them as well, to do two things. One, to feed them so they grow really well when they do start growing back in the spring, and two, I'm hoping that it will keep them a little bit warmer. So with putting a little bit of compost on there and pulling my ground cover over the top of it, I'm going to gently cover them, so hopefully in the spring when I uncover it they'll burst into life and I'll get some really early Cape gooseberries. Now if you've done this already, or you know someone that has, I'd really love some top tips, because this is the first time I've ever grown them, so it's definitely the first time I've ever wintered them. So if anyone's done this before or knows anyone that has, some top tips from any of you viewers would be really amazing. Now I do hope you've enjoyed the tour of my allotment, and I hope you're still getting a little bit done each week up at the allotment, even though it's a bit bleak. Like today, it's a really nice sunny day, so you do feel really good for coming up, and you get a bit of exercise doing some gardening, and you also get some jobs done ready for the spring.